Recently, I saw a list of the world's richest people, and as per usual, they're the Warren Buffetts, the Bill Gateses, the Jeff Bezoses, and the Elon Musks. But there was a new name that I'd never seen on there before, and that was Gautam Adani. And I thought, I don't actually really know too much about this guy. And then I thought, that's probably actually not such a good thing, because he actually has a mine in my home country, Australia. And so I decided to do a bit of research on who Gautam Adani is, and how he got rich, and what he's doing today. So to start with, his net worth is over $100 billion. And I do not want to put an exact figure on that because a lot of his fortune is built upon energy prices. And energy prices is a very turbulent beast. So anyway, I started researching who Gautam Adani actually is. And the first thing that jumped out at me was that he's actually been in some very terrifying situations. I'm not talking about financially scary. I'm talking life and death scary. And so he has been kidnapped and held for ransom. And in 2008, he was in the Taj Mahal Palace when terrorists came in on boats and attacked that palace and other parts of Mumbai. And for anyone who isn't familiar with that attack, it is basically India's version of 9/11. It was a devastating attack and a lot of lives lost, and it's a very sad event. And Gautam Adani was very fortunate to be able to survive it. You probably clicked on this video because you want to know how he actually got rich. Well, I'd say to just really oversimplify his process of how he got rich, he paid attention to what the Indian government wanted built and developed, and then he started businesses in those fields. And this is actually a pretty interesting strategy. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because if you specialize in fields that the government actually wants developed, you're more likely to have tax breaks and you're more likely to be a recipient of government grants to develop the country in those fields. And Gautam himself even states that Indian nation building has been the key plank of his investment strategy, just like how likes and subscribes are a key plank for a YouTuber to grow. Now this approach or this strategy or this mindset actually sort of puts him in a parallel direction as the Indian Prime Minister Modi, who likes to encourage Indian businesses to develop in fields for which India needs the most development in. And in fact, the two men have become very good friends in recent years. But anyway, how did he start? Well, let's rewind back to 1978. Now, he was a normal guy that moved to Mumbai to work in a diamond sorting business, and he did not come from wealth. Now, he later proved himself and was recruited by his older brother, and he had 7 siblings by the way, to take on what he had learnt in the diamond sorting business and to apply it to his business where they imported plastics. And with their global trade presence, they were then able to expand into agriculture, energy, metals, and textiles. And so business is going really well, and in 1994, he actually managed to buy the management rights to a port, as in a shipping seaport. I mean, woohoo, right? And over time, he slowly grew this port to become the largest privately held port in all of India. And from the foothold with this port and the wealth that he was able to generate from that, he was able to expand his family business into the field of energy. And he became the largest power provider in India through the use of thermal coal plants. Now at the time, India was starving for energy, as they had 240 million people without access to reliable electricity. And 240 million people, I mean, that is 9 times of Australia's entire population not having access to consistent electricity. I mean, that is huge. And because of this, the Indian government removed any import tariffs on any equipment that were to be imported, as this would obviously help to solve the problem of Indians not having electricity. So, Gautam had the networks, he had the ports, and he had the knowledge to take advantage of this situation, and also to help his fellow Indians get electricity. And so he basically did that. Now he has the power stations and some of the infrastructure to provide power to many more parts of India. But now he's facing a new problem. Now he has the power plants, but he doesn't actually have enough coal to feed those power plants. And there is not enough coal in all of India to keep up with demand. And also bear in mind that although wind and solar technology existed at a time, it was nowhere near as efficient and finely tuned as what it is today. But anyway, it turns out that Australia has a lot of coal that it's not using. And so in 2009, Gautam Adani purchased Abbott Point Port in northern Queensland. And then alongside this, he purchased the Carmichael coal mine, which is a little bit inland of that. So the idea being is that the coal will be mined in an Adani-owned mine, put on an Adani-owned train, sent to the Adani-owned seaport in northern Queensland, put on an Adani ship, sent to an Adani port in India, and then from the Adani port in India, sent to an Adani power plant. And so, owning the entire production chain, that is called vertical integration. And Elon Musk is also a big believer of running things this way as well. as that way you can have complete control of the process and he cannot be let down by an external party. But anyway, going back to his coal mine in Australia, Gautam Adani has actually received a lot of negative attention from climate activists as they paint him to be this climate-destroying evil villain. But I personally think these criticisms are a little bit harsh, as Gautam's focus is just to provide electricity to his fellow Indians in whatever method that he can to achieve that goal. And at the time that he started these projects, global warming was not as obvious a threat as what we know it to be today. And he is changing with the times. In May 2020, Adani won the right to build India's largest solar farm, and so the client being the Solar Energy Corporation of India, or SECI. So this requires that Adani be responsible for the construction of an 8,000 megawatt solar farm. And then on top of this, because he's building a solar farm anyway, he's building his own 2,000 megawatt solar farm project. So for those of you who want to paint him as some type of environmental villain, I should point out that he generates 4,620 megawatts from coal, but he personally generates 2,000 megawatts per year from his solar, and he is responsible for the construction of a solar plant that will be generating 8,000 per year. And so it is actually a minority fraction of the energy that he produces is actually coming from dirty sources. So anyway, it turns out that energy is a great asset class to be in nowadays. I mean, 10% of the world's GDP is spent on energy production, and so he's obviously trying to get a big slice of that pie. And with his foothold in energy, his wealth grew immensely. His wealth has grown so much that he's been able to expand into more varying ventures, including into gas, into cement production, into data storage, and he now even owns 74% of Mumbai International Airport. But now, let's fast forward to February 2022. Vladimir Putin decides to invade Ukraine in a desperate effort to make sure that history books write about him in a negative way. I mean, he hasn't hit Pol Pot or Hitler levels yet, but he is kind of sliding in that direction. So energy prices have gone through the roof because of this. But with Gautam Adani, the majority of his energy comes from either Australia or the sun. And so his supply line was not affected at all. But the same cannot be said for a lot of his energy producing competitors. And this is a big reason for why Gautam Adani's net worth has really shot up. And it has shot up so much, in fact, they very quickly overtook the former richest man in India, that is Mukesh Ambani, who built a lot of his fortune on oil. And his net worth continued to skyrocket until he joined the ranks of the top 10 richest people on the planet. And just like with many billionaires in the world, he has had his fair share of scandal. Apart from Warren Buffett, I mean, you hear about scandals of like with so many of the world's richest people, but why is it that you never hear anything negative about Warren Buffett? Maybe he's just a good dude. Anyway, so it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows for Gautam Adani's rise in wealth, and he has been busted red-handed doing some tax evasion. And so the way that he did this was that he started up a new Adani business which is based in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, and they do not charge a corporate tax rate. And in 2010, Adani ordered $65 million worth of equipment for a power plant which was going to end up in India, and it was made by Hyundai and manufactured in China. So the Adani Dubai office purchased this machinery for $65 million and then instantly hiked up the price of it to $260 million and then sold it to Adani in India for a 400% markup. And although this transaction went from Hyundai to Adani Dubai to Adani India, the physical items themselves went straight from Hyundai's plant in China to Adani in India. And also, I should mention that Hyundai is not implicated in any of this. They basically just sold some machinery that they made. So now you're probably thinking, but how's that tax dodging, and why go through the effort of going through Adani in Dubai instead of just directly from Hyundai to Adani in India? Well, to simplify it, let's just assume that the Adani India is expecting to make a $195 million profit for the year that they're forecasting. And the Indian corporate tax rate would make that about a $58 million tax bill that would be coming due later that year. However, if they pay $195 million too much to Adani in Dubai, Adani in India would have $0 profit. 30% of $0 is basically no tax. However, in Adani, they will now have a $195 million profit, but the corporate tax rate in the United Arab Emirates is 0%. And so they'll be able to keep that entire $195 million and they'll save themselves $58 million in taxes. So yes, this is obviously not good and it's not very moral and it's not right. But an unfortunate sad fact about the world though is that many billionaires around the world, and especially in Europe and the United States, have very creative and very similar tax avoidance schemes. And this will continue to be a problem as there are over 250 countries in the world and they just need to find one that either charges no corporate tax or the lowest corporate tax rate. And in order to keep myself balanced and neutral, I now feel obligated to mention something very good that he has done. And so here it is. During the COVID pandemic, India was hit particularly hard, and Gautam Adani personally paid for medical equipment and lots of medical oxygen in order to increase the survival odds of his fellow Indians when they were becoming infected with COVID. So anyway, I think it's very reasonable to state that Gautam Adani and his wife Kriti have saved a lot of lives during the COVID pandemic. So anyway, that is an overview of Gautam Adani, and I hope you enjoyed this, and please tell me in the comments if you'd like to hear about any other billionaires and their stories about how they became rich as well. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next week.